1. Broadcasting from the heart of the I Work for Him Nation to Christ followers working in all kinds of unusual places today and all over the United States, because we're all about transforming the mindset of every Christian to recognizing that your workplace, no matter what it looks like today, is a mission field. You've tuned into the Voice of the Faith and Work Movement, and we are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and we're so excited to be here today.
We really are. So thank you for taking a little bit of time. Hopefully you're seeing us pop up in your stream and or listening on the show, and we're just grateful to have you here today with us. So hold on tight. I think that there's some great stuff we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, this is a new thing we're doing. We're doing our radio shows live on Facebook, courtesy of Zoom and Facebook's partnership. And then, of course, it'll still go out there to our podcast, and it'll go out there in all different kinds of ways, streaming across the world. You know, MC Hammer said it best in 1990. You got to pray just to make it today. 30 years ago, MC Hammer got it, but it's taken a major pandemic to bring the world to its knees. What that famous rap artist Prophet knew is a reality today. For many of you, the uncertainty of a paycheck or your health has you on the edge and is drawing you to your knees. The National Day of Prayer is designated each year as the first Thursday of May. This year, it's May 7th, a day where the whole nation gathers to pray for our nation. This year, it will be the second National Day of Prayer because at the beginning of the shutdown and the quarantines, the president ordered March 15th to be a National Day of Prayer as well. So this year, we get to do it twice, double the impact. Normally, the National Day of Prayer in May is highlighted by gatherings of hundreds of thousands all over D.C. and millions gathering in small groups all over the country. This year, we're going to gather in millions. Many of us in our homes. What an honor to bring our country before the throne of the Lord. Kathy Branzell is the president of the National Day of Prayer Task Force, and she's here today to give us an update on May 7th and all that's going to go on. Kathy Branzell, welcome back to I Work for Him as we broadcast this live on Facebook.
Hey, Jim and Martha. Good to be with you again. Love you guys.
Yeah, it's fun. Hey, we get to do, we get to see each other. It's a little different than radio because we actually get to see each other face to face. Why don't you give us an update? I want to step back. Let's get personal to start with. Let's just get personal to start with. How has the Lord had you praying for our country recently?
So many ways. First of all, that this time would bring out the best in us, not the worst in us. And we have seen that in many ways with people stepping up in new and innovative and creative ways. We've seen a lot of collaboration. We've seen people pray for one another. We've seen prayer care share at its best. And so we're getting there. We're getting there. I would pray that it would shut up the critic in us, because people don't need more critics and criticism and complaining during this time. We need more Christ. So that's been my prayer.
We don't need more critics. I like that. We don't, but boy, they seem to be, it's tough. It's just, the enemy is hard at work.
It's like the old guys from the Muppet Show multiplied, you know.
Those guys were funny though. They were funny.
Well,
most of the criticism today is not that funny.
Yeah, I was going to say that was surreal because it wasn't, humans. Well,
it was.
I don't want to tell that story. That's the Muppets. You might believe that, but anyway. So Kathy, one of the things that I know that is very near and dear to you is the fact that the National Day of Prayer isn't just one day of prayer. Do you want to talk about that just for a minute?
No, we say we're the National Daily Prayer. So I love that. And several people have said, oh, are you upset that the president called for another day of prayer? I'm like, are you kidding? We need to be praying every day, and we need to be praying in response. We need to be praying for one another. It's just that we can have a National Day of Prayer for, or in response to, or in repentance, or the list goes on, global, but we have the National Day of Prayer, which is the first Thursday of May by law. So we're excited to get to steward that.
Yes, and that's a beautiful distinction, so thank you. So how have you seen your prayer shifting because of the pandemic that we're in right now?
Wow. So I joke it's either because I was raised Southern Baptist and, we always had these bullet points of fill in the blank, or it's because I was a kindergarten teacher to start with. But God speaks to me in threes, and they either rhyme or they all start with the same letter. And so I'm grateful that He speaks to me simply. I have been praying that we would be found fruitful and faithful in these times instead of furious and fretful. And so in that, I don't know if you saw, we had a leader check-in last week, and I was praying on that day, because there's a new one, it seems like every day, that we would arise, we would abide, and we would ascribe. And so we would rise and shine every day. We need to get up. We need to still be prayer, care, share. There's discipleship that needs to happen. Every day is pregnant with purpose. And so we need to make sure that we don't squander these days, that we are stewarding them, and that we would abide in him. We know apart from him, we can do nothing. And so really going deep into scripture, Lord, who are you and who am I in you? And what do you have for this day? And then to ascribe his glory, ascribe his power, ascribe our attention and affection, our energy and emotion to him, because it is way too easy to start ascribing it to a binge watch, or ascribing our energy and attention to the news, the bad news, the I'm stuck at home mentality versus I'm safe at home mentality. So that's been some of the ways I've been praying that we'll steward.
You usually travel 80 out of 90 days, in a quarter. So in 30 seconds or less, how has being home, I mean, have you gotten more rest, or you're restless?
I haven't gotten more rest, only because we're, a few weeks away from National Day of Prayer, but I've been peaceful in scripture, in the word, in prayer. It's been awesome to just have this time with God.
All right, we're talking today with Kathy Branzell from the National Day of Prayer Task Force. She's the president, the big kahuna. She's the big organizer, and May the 7th is the date. We want to make sure that you guys get to know all the details, so we come back after just a couple of messages from some sponsors. We want you guys to check out nationaldayofprayer.org, nationaldayofprayer.org. Now a message from our sponsors. Okay, so I'm going to do the commercials live here on Facebook, and when we go out to the radio, we'll have those recorded. But I want to make sure I thank our sponsors during these breaks. I want to thank Luke Andrews with Inspire Advisors, helping you, our listeners, with biblically responsible investing online at iinvest4him.com, iinvestforhim.com. Julie Colvin with Grant Pathways and Pathways to Growth, helping your nonprofit to be successful in getting grants to help you stay on the cutting edge of nonprofitness. Pathways-to-growth.us, pathways-to-growth.us. And Skip Stanton and his team at Aqua Plumbing and Air, serving south of Tampa Bay for all of your AC, electrical, and plumbing needs. How about aquaplumbing-sarasota.com? All right, now we're going to get back to our radio show with Kathy Branzell. So excited that she could join us today. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back to I Work for Him. As we're talking with Kathy Branzell, the president of the National Day of Prayer Task Force. May the 7th is the day we join as a nation to pray for our nation. Not that we haven't been praying a lot more. I mean, Kathy, when this usually happens on the first Thursday of May, it's like, okay, we're going to stop everything so we can pray. But this is a little bit different this year. It's like God has sent out this warning flare saying, people, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Eventually, it's going to be destroyed. Let me just give you a precursor of what things may be like one day. But this is a warning, Christ followers. Get out of your laziness. Wake up from your fog and realize that this is a real battle for the souls of everybody around the globe. And people are praying, Kathy, like they've never prayed before. It's got to be exciting leading up to the May 7th National Day of Prayer.
It really is. And I've seen it as a very Habakkuk moment.
We better explain that one for everybody, because that's one of those random books in the Old Testament.
Yeah, let me take that down for you. So our theme this year, if you'll remember, is from Habakkuk 2:14. It's a promise. It's a promise God makes in the middle of ascribing woes to the nation. God woes for just a second to give a promise. It's like he allowed Habakkuk the prophet to take a deep breath in the middle of this. And he says, for the knowledge of the glory of the Lord will fill the earth as the waters cover the sea. So, of course, when all of this started, you think and you hear things like we're battling, we're at war, we're battling an invisible enemy. And I think, as an intercessor, we've been battling an invisible enemy our entire lives, our entire intercessory lives. So with that, read through the book of Habakkuk. It's 3 short chapters, but at the very beginning, the prophet is talking to God on behalf of the people. It's usually the other way around. And he's saying, how long, God? How long will we cry out to you? And it seems like you're not listening. And I think about all of the different things that we've been praying for, all the themes from National Day of Prayer over the years. How many times have we prayed for revival? We've had themes, Wake Up America. We've had themes, One Nation Under God. We've had themes about repenting. We've had all these themes about love and unity and this year glory. And it's like God said, I've heard you, and now I'm answering you. You get to Habakkuk 1:5, and he says, but if I had told you what I was going to do, you wouldn't have believed it. And I think about that. If we had been sitting around here in my house with all my nutcrackers, in December together, and my 5,000
Kathy
Christmas
Branzell, for the record, does go off the charts on Christmas with 7 Christmas trees and nutcrackers the size of small children all over her house.
Yes. If I had said, hey, Jim and Martha, come March, we're all going to be locked down in our houses and we're not going to be allowed to go anywhere. And people won't go to church on Easter. You would have been like, Kathy, what'd they put in your Dunkin' Donuts coffee there? So, God says you wouldn't have believed it. And then he goes through the series of woes and he makes the promise. And at the end of chapter 2, it says that the earth was silent before God. And we hear all these places I travel to all the time. And you think about Times Square and the Western Wall in Israel, and on it goes. And those places are silent right now. The world is quiet before the Lord. And then you get to the end of Habakkuk, and Habakkuk's response is, though the fig tree fail, though the olive crop fail, though there's no cattle in the stalls, he's saying, no matter what you do, Lord, no matter what happens, we will praise you. I will praise you. And I really think that we're in that moment with God right now where he's saying, do you promise you're not going to go back to the way you were? Do you promise that what you've learned during this time, do you promise, will you resolve not to go back to all that nastiness, all that hatred, all that division, all that selfishness and self-promotion that was going on before this all started? Do you promise? Are we going to move forward together? And I think that we're just in that moment with him, trusting him, but he's teaching us he has something for this time, and we need to be faithful.
And I think he's saying that to the church. I mean, because I'm, a lot of pre-believers, because it says at one time at the end that every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Christ is Lord. But between now and then, we've got some pre-believers, but the believers being unified, breaking down the walls of the church, and as we've seen in the marketplace where they operate in unity. Kathy, this is a challenge for a lot of people. Martha, I'll let you talk here in a second.
You will? Okay.
I will, I promise. I mean, this is a challenge for people's workplaces, because we've been training people for 7 years on how to really recognize your workplace as a mission field, and yet that workplace mission field has gone to video like this, like we're doing here. I mean, how are you helping people? Well, Martha, why don't you ask that question?
Well, I don't know what question you have, Jim. Go right ahead.
So
I had a different one.
Well, I mean, how do we adjust? I mean, the National Day of Prayer used to be in gatherings all over the place, and people getting together, holding hands. It's going to look different on May the 7th.
Yeah. So a couple of separate questions. Let me answer that way. So as far as the workplace goes, there's never been a better time for PerCare Share. And it's because we're doing this, and we can look at each other and go, how are you doing? How are you holding up? What are you fearful about? Do I have anything that you need? How can I pray for you? How can I meet a need? How can I share with you the reason for my hope? How am I staying faithful? How am I staying positive? How am I not scared out of my mind? Well, because of Jesus Christ. And so the soil is being prepared right now. We have more opportunity for PerCare Share from our homes right now than we ever had in the office, because we were all busy, heads down, locked up in our offices, doing our thing, traveling all over the world. Right. And now we have to be still and know and show.
Yeah. So tell everybody before we miss this opportunity, and we'll talk about it again in the last segment, is what is May 7th going to look like for 2020?
Yeah, so lots to talk about, but it will look different, I am sure. So we are saying that we're making room for a miracle, based on the feeding of the 5,000 and the fact that I've talked about that in a previous video on our Facebook page, that that you had fishermen disciples at the lake with a boat, with their nets. People were hungry, and not a one of them, not even Peter, said, "Hey, let's go fishing." They asked Jesus, so they didn't do things the way they'd always done them to get the results that they always had.
Yeah.
And they got a miracle. So if there is some massive miracle, and I mean massive, like no deaths and no sicknesses done in a day, you just try to stop people from praying and praising. People will come out of the woodwork, looking for places to pray.
All right, when we come back, we're going to find out what can we do on May the 7th as we celebrate the National Day of Prayer, as we talk with Kathy Branzell from the National Day of Prayer Task Force. She's a big kahuna in organizing it all for May the 7th with a task force of thousands around the country. You're listening to I Work for Him with your host, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Hey, check us out online, iworkforhim.com. We'll be right back after a couple of messages. All right, so we're going to give you some more sponsors, people that help make our broadcast possible each and every day. And it's a lot of fun, Martha, because I didn't let you talk during the last segment.
Yeah, it's hard with you and Kathy to get a word in edgewise.
Wow.
I know how that goes.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So this is my first rodeo with the two of you. But I want to thank Tony Dale and his team at Sedera Health and the CARES Group. They're bringing cutting-edge solutions to healthcare benefits through corporate healthcare sharing. And you can find them online at sedera.com.
Well, go ahead.
I get to do them all.
You get to do them all.
Mark Pearson and his team at Nepsis Capital, they're bringing clarity to your investment portfolio as a financial advisor. You can find them online at nepsiscapital.com. And lastly, I want to thank Dan Baker and his team at Helping Hands Charities, helping your employee team be generous to your employee team online at hhcharitable.org. And that is something that maybe a lot of workplaces right now want to maybe check out. To help each other out, hhcharitable.org.
All right, so we're going to go back to our conversation with Kathy Branzell in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back to I Work for Him, as we're hearing from Kathy Branzell, the president of the National Day of Prayer Task Force, about how's the National Day of Prayer actually going to happen. So, Kathy, why don't you go back to answering those questions? We talked about our workplace having been changed very much. Talk about how May the 7th is going to look for our nation on the National Day of Prayer.
Right. So instead of tens of thousands of people, of gatherings of millions of people coming together face to face in person, we have several different options. Our state coordinators, national area leaders, event coordinators are all very creative and innovative. And so some of it will look like this. Some of it will be on Facebook and Instagram and other things. There'll be Zoom meetings and WebEx and all kinds of things where people are praying virtually. We do have some radio stations, local radio stations, that have come on board and said, we'll do a 30-minute or a 1-hour prayer service, and everyone in the city, everybody that can hear our broadcast can have this day of prayer, this hour of prayer, and we'll pray through the 7 mountains. They're going to be using our prayer guides that we have, because we pray the 7 mountains. And
where can we get those prayer guides, Kathy Branzell?
Yes, on nationaldayofprayer.org. We have lots of incredible fun resources, everything from, I'll be like Vanna White for just a second, but it does have the national prayer on the back that we want everyone to pray at noon. And it's got scriptures and prayers for all 7 of the mountains that we pray for.
There's a specific national prayer that you'd like us praying.
Yes.
And then you got us praying for all 7 mountains. And now that brochure that you just had, if we ordered them, we don't have anybody to hand them to. Well, we have our neighbors to hand them to, but we can order them. Is there also PDFs available?
Yes, you can download. There are PDFs available. We have those. We have all kinds of fun things. See, you could be prayer walking your neighborhood right now in your Pray God's Glory hat. Very cool. Yes.
Very good. So go to nationaldayofprayer.org and check out all the resources there, because, that's one of the things that I just want to make sure we always tell people, how they can get to the bottom line. What is it that you want to take away? And really, we want to equip you, our listeners, equip ourselves, equip each other to really embrace this very special day together so that, one of the things that's really resonated with me is for people to say, I don't want to be the same when this is over. And we have a couple choices there. We can be several pounds heavier. We can be, say, what did I do with my time? How did I waste it? Or how did I grow? What did I invest in this time? And that's what I want to encourage our listeners that are joining us today, is to really look at, this is one way that becomes a lifestyle investment in praying for each other, praying for our nation. And that's what you can find out all those resources at nationaldayofprayer.org.
All right, Kathy Branzell, you and your task force for 9, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to, we actually can hand these out, by the way. That's where I was going with this. So we have cities that are going on prayer parades. And they've actually done these for years, and they've had the police escort them. That's so awesome. And so just like people were handing out communion with gloves and masks, just like people have been handing out food to cars and resources for children who are being taught at home now, you can line up your prayer parade, and they're driving around to different places with the 7 mountains, and they're handing the prayer guide into the cars before they leave. The other thing is people are taking assignments for the 7 mountains. And so they're going to their favorite radio station and praying in the parking lot there. They're going to the school, praying in the parking lot, going to the government office, praying in the parking lot. You get the idea.
Well, don't we need to explain 7 mountains? Not everybody understands the 7 mountains. So the breaking the economy up into 7 pieces. You got the church, you got the family, you got the government, you got education, you got arts and entertainment, you got media, and you got business. And so praying over all of those pieces on the National Day of Prayer, where you can find out more. Hold up that brochure again, nationaldayofprayer.org. You can order these along with, you can also, if you order 10 million of those, you can also get a free hat. Show the hat. All right, if you order 10 million brochures, you can get the free hat. They're throwing that free hat in today. That'd be
or you can drink out of your water bottle.
If you order 20 million brochures, you get a bottle and a hat. It's fantastic. But Kathy, all that stuff's available on the store on the nationaldayofprayer.org.
Absolutely. Yeah. So people love our resources. And, one I want to talk about real quick that ties into what we're discussing is we really are at war. I can't imagine right now the spiritual battle going on behind all of the virus, the health, the wealth, everything else that's going on that we can see. And so God had really put it in my heart last May when I was announced as the new president to start a new tradition with our group. And I thought at the time it was because I was a military brat, military wife, but I wanted to institute the commander's coin. And if you're in the military, you know exactly what this is. If you are if you are a police officer, you probably know what this is, but this is a commander's coin. It's given out to represent camaraderie. It represents a battle you went through together. It represents maybe the ship you're assigned to or a specific mission. And so ours this year has the National Day of Prayer logo. It has the 7 centers around the edge, and then on the back, no surprise.
Hold it up closer to your camera so we can see it.
Yeah, if my people who are called by my name, so the 7:14 verse that was really the National Day of Prayer theme verse for so long. But this coin can act as a prayer prompt for our nation. And we are at war. And that's the important part, is we need to be praying every day, but we need to be praying in unity on the National Day of Prayer.
Wow.
So Kathy, if people are wanting to really engage, not just with the resources, but on May 7th, and they want to know what's happening locally or how they should best engage, tell them where, again, they can go to find that information. Because I don't want them to be like, I don't get it. Help me.
Exactly.
They want to be connected.
So again, nationaldayofprayer.org. And you can click on volunteers, you can click on staff, we have a map of the United States. You can find out who your state coordinator is, who your national area leader is, connect with them. Right now, we kind of have a stay tuned mentality. What will be fun is we will all be able to pray together from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. We will have our national observance that is not canceled, that is not postponed. We will have our national broadcast. It will be, I'm excited this year because it'll be a true national broadcast coming from all over the United States. And so please be watching that. You can watch it on TV, Facebook, radio, all kinds of places. So check out
on Facebook, they can find you National Day of Prayer, right? Yep. Okay. Absolutely. And on the web, nationaldayofprayer.org. Kathy Branzell, thanks for being on I Work for Him today. Thanks for giving us an update on the National Day of Prayer. Thanks for encouraging us all to pray, because we got to pray just to make it today. Thank you, Kathy Branzell.
Thank you. Praying for you.
You've been listening to I Work for Him with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers, and our workplace, it's our mission field. But ultimately, I work for Him.